Welcome back folks and welcome to a new video. So unless you were living under a rock for the past 7 days, you probably heard about this little game called Palworld. So over the past week, Palworld was an absolute success where on Steam it had 2 million concurrent players. The only game which is actually ahead of Palworld in this sense is PUBG, which had I believe 3 million players on Steam when it went free to play. So I didn't know about Palworld all that much before it came out. I think I saw one trailer long ago and I was like, okay, whatever this is, and I continued on. Then I go onto Twitch and I see that a lot of people were playing this because I was looking around seeing like what people have been playing, there has been some new releases and so on, but everyone was playing Palworld. So I go to Twitter, I go to Steam to check out the game to see what other people have been saying, and everybody loved it. I was like, okay, let me check this out. So one of the first things which I think attracted the attention of a lot of people are the design of different beasts or monsters, or as they are called in this game, pals. So these pals, when you look at them, one of the biggest headliners for a lot of like news media and everything, it's Pokemon with guns. But once I got into the game and I started playing it more and more, I saw like, okay, this is not simply Pokemon with guns, there is something much deeper here, and the gameplay systems they have are actually pretty good. So the whole concept of the game is basically base building survival along with catching all of those pals so they can work for you. Now keep in mind, for me, Pokemon was never a selling point for this game because personally I didn't watch Pokemon all that much when I was a kid. At least in my street or in my city we played Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot, like crazy a lot. So I never really got into this because I said, okay, this looks like Pokemon. Now, I think that inspiration from here is driven not just from Pokemon, obviously, but from Digimon, from other monster collecting games, from Monster Hunter, and so on. Now, if we take a look at just the mechanics and the gameplay loop of Palworld, there is a reason why this is so popular. Well, first off, when it comes to how you play the game, you have to look at it as a Ark, Rust, Valheim combination in a sense. When it comes to Ark, you can say like, okay, you have a tech tree, and with each level, being the 50 is the max level, you unlock certain things which are going to help you. So for example, as you level up, you get access to, let's say, a bow, then a crossbow, then a pistol, then a single shot rifle, then a shotgun, then assault rifle. And it also comes with different technologies, for example, like how you collect different things throughout the map, how you refine them, and ultimately how you craft certain items. So from that standpoint, it can be kind of similar, with some elements from, of course, Rust and Ark. Now, the difference being in this is that those pals which you capture have unique abilities. So some of them are able, for example, to get wood. Others are capable of, let's say, gathering stone. Other ones are capable of, let's say, watering the plants and then creating food for you, refining those things and creating like different stuff later on, like ammo, different crafting materials which you will need. So those pals which you capture, they assume the position of workers so that everything is streamlined through that, and it makes your survival a lot more easier so you can focus on other things. And besides that, obviously you can use those pals within the game, for example, like summoning them, using them as mounts, flying with them, fighting, and so on. On the map itself, you have various bosses you can fight around the map. And besides that, you have 5 major players within the game, like factions that you have to fight, and those are usually like the leaders of those factions, and they also have their own pals. So fighting like pal to pal is kind of a cool thing and a cool concept within the game. And I think one of the things which made a lot of people play this game for a long periods of time, and that's why I play for a longer period of time and had longer gameplay sessions, was because there is always something to do. If you're not collecting like pals, you're gonna be in your base and they're gonna be creating spheres which you will need to obviously go and collect pals. So there is this always loop of just creating a perfect, how would I say, ecosystem with those pals so they can work the best they can and gather resources for you later on so you can push and continue to play the game forward. And besides that, being that this is a early access game, keep that in mind, there has been a lot of content in this. And I mean, for an early access game, you can pretty much clock 100 to 150 hours easily and do just the main stuff. And also, as it is, for example, in other games like Valheim, eventually from time to time there is going to be a raid. Now keep in mind that raid is not like in Rust by other players. Currently this game you can play in single player, you can play on a invite only server or the public one with other people, but there is no PvP in that sense. But as I've seen, developers do want to add like PvP and PAL battles within the game later on, which I think would be cool and is going to increase the longevity of this game because people like that sort of stuff. And also for an early access game, I didn't have many crashes, I didn't have any major like breaking problems which were kind of hindering my experience. But of course, because this is still an early access game, I did find a lot of glitches and smaller problems which ultimately add up a little bit to be quite annoying, which is something that some developers said they want to fix. So for example, one of the biggest issues within this game is pathing. So you create a base, you let your pals out to work on different stuff so they can gather resources. The problem is they either get stuck a lot or they wander off of the area of the map and they cannot go back, which was actually quite frustrating, and I constantly have to micromanage those pals, bring them back, or just use like the main like screen where you can arrange those pals, bring them back into my inventory and then reinstate them back into my base so they can actually stop glitching around. At the same time, there has been some problems with the raids recently, and a lot of people were, kind of, bothered about it. So at first, raids were kind of cool because you're gonna be using your pals to defend your base, or you're gonna be stopping that attack before it reaches your base of operation. But as I was progressing throughout the game, those raids became more constant, and I'm basically saying I go to one base, raid. I play for 5 to 10 minutes, I go to the other base, raid. I play there for 10 minutes, I go back to my first base, raid. And it be kind of, it can be a little bit annoying to that sense where you constantly have to defend your base, and that also means you have to shoot at the people who are attacking you or use your pals, which is ultimately going to drain your resources. But besides those issues, I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't find any other major issues so far. Now do keep in mind, if you're playing with your friends or playing generally online on public servers, you have to keep a lookout for a few things. First off, there has been some bugs, as I've heard, where the save actually gets deleted, so I don't know if that was fixed or basically the progression you made throughout the save just didn't want to count. And at the same time, again, if you're on a public server, keep in mind there is always going to be a possibility of having cheaters within the game. And even though they cannot really hurt you in that sense because, well, no PvP, they can still cause a lot of issues or maybe progressional issues in general. But I've been personally playing single player and it was a very enjoyable experience that I think after I reach level 50, I'm gonna continue definitely to play a bit, because it's one of those games that can constantly be fun to do something, and even though it's like maybe the style is not my cup of tea initially, it grew up a lot on me, and I think that that's the reason why this game is so popular, because first of all, well, they created a monster hunting open world survival base building game, and where you can also play around with those pals, combine them, breed different ones, which is something I think people have been asking for. This niche, which was basically empty, was filled with this, and it was polished really well to the point where people said, okay, this is the next game we have in this niche, and so far it's good. And also when it comes to combat in general, when it comes to you fighting with pals or fighting alone, it's done really well, where the game can be kind of difficult if you want to make it difficult, but it can also be easy depending if you go and, for example, use pals which have counter abilities to other pals you're gonna be catching, or properly preparing yourself for using different tactics in that sense. And I think because they gave people the ability to basically like go into options and micromanage every single aspect of your server or the server you're playing on, if your admin allows it, of course, they have created this game that people can kind of shape the overall difficulty based on their needs. So if someone just wants to go and collect pals, they don't want to worry about fighting, they don't want to worry about, you know, constantly trying to survive and all of that stuff, they can do it. But also, if you're going for a really hardcore survival, I think there is a lot of benefit to it. From your perspective, keep in mind, playing on a higher difficulty, you don't really have any special rewards in this game compared to playing on any other difficulty or setting your custom one. And it's actually funny because I've never seen this on my Steam. When I logged in and when I started playing, 10 people on my friends list, everybody was in Palworld, even from people who I'd never expected are going to play a game like this or this style or being a survival one, because they don't simply play those games. But I've seen that they're playing it, and it's crazy how a game can come out like this, that it takes all of the best features from a lot of games and it mixes and matches them together. Now usually, as it is in theory, mixing and matching different gameplay formulas or styles or features does not always yield good results, because you have to find a way to connect all of it so it works together. But I think the developers did a very nice job of not just combining those things, but having their own twist to it, that it works even better in that sense, where, for example, if you want to condense your pals and create a better one, you can do it. If you want to do this, you can do it. If you want to do that, basically whatever I thought I wanted to do in this game when it comes to just the survival elements and how I want to plan my survival, I was able to do it. Of course, with some of the pathing bugs and problems with pals in general, sometimes not doing what they are actually supposed to. And I think so far Palworld has a very good foundation. It can build, you know, upon itself, and depending on what they want to do with this game later on, because having this many sales, like having 6-7 million sales in like a few days from release, definitely gets you a lot of money, so you can work with it and reinvest that back into the game. And how much of that is going to be reinvested, we shall see. I'm hoping a lot, because again, if they continue expanding upon it, I think that Palworld is going to have a very stable concurrent player base, which you are going to see on SteamDB, but that also depends a lot from them. If they don't really update and they don't expand upon this game, I don't think it's going to work that well. But so far, the foundation, pretty good. So for the end, I just want to say that initially, even though I thought that, hey, this is maybe hype, maybe the game is not that good, you know, I have to check it out for myself. But I was wrong. I mean, the game is definitely good. The gameplay formula is nice, the gameplay loop is fun, which is the most important thing. If that's not fun, then, you know, the game does die out very fast, which I think in this case is not going to happen. Now, the progression kind of slows down from like level 40 to like later on, as you need to collect a lot of resources. You can create more like good spheres, which are going to be higher tiered ones that you can, you know, catch stronger pals. So there is definitely a downtime to that, to kind of slow down that progression a little bit, but not too much to the point where it becomes annoying. So far, these are my impressions of the game. It's gonna be interesting to see how it updates and develops further. It's definitely not a game I'm usually talking about on this channel, but I'm glad I did, because I've been enjoying this, to be honest. And if I play a game for 6-7 hours straight on the first day, I mean, it's probably a good game after all, because there hasn't been many games in the past which were able to glue me to the screen like this one. Now, of course, with it, I've been also playing Enshrouded, but that's going to be a video for another day, because I think for survival game genre, for base building genre, and for people who like those sort of games, I think right now the selection is pretty good, and I think there's gonna be more and more titles coming out this year in this style. So thank you for watching. This is LKM signing out. Let me know down below, what do you think about Palworld so far? If you played it, if you haven't played it, again, tell me what you think about it down below from just looking at the game. And also, huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and I will see you very soon in a new video. Bye bye.